I give you the thumbs up like this when it starts, when you.
Do normal songs, okay. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the Whitler line, standing at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment line, sitting around, waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution, it sounds like a whisper. Poor people gonna rise up and get their share. Poor people gonna rise up, take what's theirs. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. 'Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about revolution. Yes, finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about revolution. While they're standing in the welfare lines, standing at the doorstep of those armies of salvation, wasting time, the unemployment line, sitting around, waiting for a promotion. Don't you know, talking about a revolution. Poor people gonna rise up, get their share. Poor people gonna rise up, take what's theirs. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. Don't you know you better run, 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 run. 'Cause finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Finally the tables are starting to turn. Talking about a revolution. Oh. Never been to the moon, but don't you wanna go under the sea in the volcano? You never looked into my eyes, but don't you wanna know where the dark and the wild and the different go? Never been to the moon, but don't you wanna go under the sea in the volcano? Never looked into my eyes, but don't you wanna know where the dark and the wild and the different go? Come dance with me now, dance without a care. I'm free as a fire, and love is in the air. There's some things in my life I'll never understand, but they become the force that makes me who I am. You never been to the moon, but don't you wanna go under the sea in the volcano? You never looked into my eyes, but don't you wanna know where the dark and the wild and the different go? Don't you worry about the kids. The kids are alright. Mama's dancing in the backyard, filled with love and light. 'Cause you live and you learn, and you learn to hold on. And I'm gonna make it here, and time will make it gone. You never been to the moon, but don't you wanna go under the sea in the volcano? You never looked into my eyes, but don't you wanna know what the dark and the wild and the different know?
Oh, good morning, you friends, and welcome. I'm David Senecal, filling in for Ron Kroll. Ron Kroll is usually our fifth Sunday lay leader, but he and Nancy are up north visiting family. I hope they're having a good time. So Dana and I were talking about, a little bit before the service, about singing at 10 o'clock in the morning. She sounds fine to me. Okay, I'm happy to see everyone here, whether in the sanctuary or joining us on Zoom or Facebook. So let's start out with, you know what it is, my little bit of holy humor. 2 weeks ago, the Sunday Services Committee, of which I'm a member, presented a review of our Sunday services throughout our past church year, which ends today. The overall theme was the Tree of Life, so I began my segment with the poem Trees by Joyce Kilmer. I'll read it again to refresh your memory if you were here or online, and for those of you who were away that day. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. Whatever you may think of the poem's literary merit in the 111 years since its publication, somebody somewhere is reading or memorizing it as I did in the days of my remote youth. There have been many parodies of trees in the ensuing decades by writers eminent and obscure. When people start making fun of you or your creative endeavors, you're on the map, whether you're Shakespeare or Joyce Kilmer. One of my hobbies is writing. I belong to a writers group, so it popped into my head to try my own takeoff on this little poem. It occurred to me, what if two of our closest companions, cats and dogs, were poets? I don't know why, who can explain inspiration? So here's one from a cat. I love to climb the tallest trees, but climbing down is not a breeze. The fireman must bring a truck to get me down from where I'm stuck. And here are a couple of lines from Kitty's canine counterpart. I pray that I shall never see a tree on which I cannot pee. A tree that lifts its limbs to pray, I'll lift my leg elsewhere to spray. I hope Mr. Kilmer is not spinning in his grave as I speak. To end on a more serious note, Joyce Kilmer, Joyce was his middle name, by the way, after the last name of a family friend. Albert was his real first name. Besides being a poet, he was a respected editor, publisher, and literary critic in his brief lifetime. He volunteered for a National Guard unit during World War I, was stationed in France, and met his demise at the hands of a sniper at age 31, survived by his wife and 5 children. On the eve of the 4th of July, I offer the familiar rubric, thank you, Joyce Kilmer, for your service and for your sacrifice. Back to the order of service. If you're in the sanctuary, be aware that this service is live on social media. Tables at the back are available if you prefer not to appear on camera. Please refrain from talking during the live session to avoid unintentional broadcasting, and switch your cell phones to airplane mode for smooth streaming. For visitors, feel free to explore literature about our UU faith in the entrance and the community room. To our Facebook viewers, join our Zoom coffee hour after the service. Find the link in the comment section. Discover more about our church, programs for children and youth, and weekly opportunities to connect with us on our website, uucommunitychurch.org. Located on Shaver Road in Portage, Michigan, our church on ancestral lands of the Peoria and Potawatomi people proudly displays a rainbow flag and Black Lives Matter sign, symbolizing our inclusive community dedicated to creating a just and sustainable world. Well, we welcome back our minister, Reverend G. Ludwig McCartney, and welcome to our guest speakers, Chris Badra and Karen Clapp Morris. And of course, welcome again to our musician, Dana Scott. Finally, heartfelt thanks to everyone contributing to this morning's service, our greeters, musician, tech team, coffee hosts, RE volunteers, and each one of you. Your presence and contributions are truly appreciated. And a page full of announcements. Today is your last chance to donate to our special Generosity Sunday collection for the American Indian College Fund. The AICF is the nation's largest charity supporting Native student access to higher education. You can give to our special collection by putting a check made out to UUCC with Generosity Sunday in the memo line in the collection basket when it comes around, or visit our website to use our online giving options. Thank you for your support. In order to provide ourselves a time of rest and rejuvenation for body, mind, and spirit, we will be operating at reduced hours during the month of July. There will be no regular Sunday services, religious exploration for kids, or thoughtful Thursdays during the month of July. Most of our small groups will take a break as well. For those who find taking time to seek, to sustain, and to share with others an important part of their self-care routine, there will still be opportunities to gather with UUCC friends during July, including our summer Sunday forums hosted by Reverend Harold Boy at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. Harold will give a sermon followed by a talk-back session. Our summer Sunday forums will take place on-site only. You will not be able to participate via Zoom, and the session will not be recorded. Childcare is available on request. Our annual Backyard Barbecue Summer fundraiser will take place on Saturday, August 10th. We hope you will join us in Reverend G and Patty's backyard for an evening of food, fellowship, and live music provided by the urban folk duo, and Miriam and I are guessing at how to pronounce the name of the group, but it's called LVN Music, LVNMUZIQ. Whatever. Details about this event can be found on our website. If you plan to come, please RSVP by August. And it's time to light the chalice. On this day around the world, Unitarian Universalists light the chalice. We are truth seekers. We seek a truth that is so strong it can withstand our questioning and even our doubts. The flame reminds us of what we have in common here, and so we bring it to life.
In the light of truth
And the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. All right, I'm not done yet. Our reading for today is what I call a song without music. It's the lyrics and music by Jerry Herman from his musical La Cage aux Folles. I am what I am. I am my own special creation. So come take a look. Give me the hook or the ovation. It's my world that I want to take a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I am. I am what I am. I don't want praise. I don't want pity. I bang my own drum, something it's noise. I think it's pretty. And so what if I love each feather and each spangle? Why not try to see things from a different angle? Your life is a sham till you can shout out loud, I am what I am. I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses. I deal my own deck, sometimes the ace, sometimes the deuces. There's one life, and there's no return and no deposit. One life, so it's time to open up your closet. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I am.
Is it too much to ask? I want a comfortable bed that won't hurt my back, food to fill me up, warm clothes and all that stuff. Shouldn't I have this? Shouldn't I have this? Shouldn't I have all of this and passionate kisses? Passionate kisses, whoa, whoa. Passionate kisses from you. Now, is it too much to demand? I want a full house and a rock and roll band, pens that won't run out of ink, and cool quiet and time to think. Shouldn't I have this? Shouldn't I have this? Shouldn't I have all of this and passionate kisses? Passionate kisses, whoa, whoa. Passionate kisses from you. Do I want too much? Am I going overboard to want that touch? I shout it out to the night, give me what I deserve, 'cause it's my right. Shouldn't I have this? Shouldn't I have this? Shouldn't I have all of this and passionate kisses? Passionate kisses, whoa, whoa. Passionate kisses from you. Passionate kisses, passionate kisses, passionate kisses from you. Passionate kisses, passionate kisses, passionate kisses from you.
Good morning and welcome. It always happens. I sit down, there's 3 people in the back. I stand up and somehow magically the seats fill up. So thank you for coming. It just wouldn't be the same without you. I'm glad you came and you sat in those chairs, and I welcome you there on the holy interwebs. I'm Reverend G. I'm the minister here at our Unitarian Universalist Community Church. And there's no place I'd rather be this morning. Dana, thank you. It was beautiful. Your music always touches me. And David, thank you for stepping in for Ron and for always being there. And you on Zoom, our techs, Nick and Caitlin and the welcoming team. It takes a village to make it happen. And we all add our precious, special little gifts to this recipe of the whole. And that gives the flavor, provides the flavor of this particular community that I so love. So, let me tell you about my last couple of weeks. If you caught it, David said, welcome back, Reverend G. That's because we went on a little vacay to West Virginia. We went White River rafting, and I was scared initially. It wasn't on my bucket list. It was on Patty's. And, that's why it's so good to be in a relationship, because I get to do her bucket list, and little did I know that if I were a little younger, a little freer, I'd probably be a white river rafting guide. That's how much I love it. It was fantastic. I totally disconnected from the world, which I never do. I didn't think about the church. I didn't think about my business. I was there, and it was amazing. And we came home and didn't go down to the basement the next day, so we went down the following day. And we bought this house about close to 5 years ago, and little by little, we are making improvements, and so progress is being made in the house. We're shaping it, and we're changing it to our desires. And so about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, we replaced the carpet downstairs with this floating floor. And I worked so hard on making it happen. It was beautiful, like just gorgeous. And so I go downstairs and I step on my floating floor and squish. And it's a literal floating floor now. And what just happened? And then I quickly realized that, what happened was, we had these very hot days while we were gone. We had the dog sitter in the house and the AC was running, and the AC condensate pump failed. So those gallons and gallons of water spilled on the floor that was in the utility room. So here's the utility room. Wall, there is a hallway, and then there is this big great room. We have a ping pong table there, and it's just like a big entertainment room. And the water from the utility room came all the way underneath the wall, underneath the hallway, next wall, and then almost all the way to the other end of the utility room. So that was fun. That was Sunday morning when I discovered that. And tomorrow the water and mildew mitigation company is coming because we gotta, do what we gotta do. So little by little we make progress with the house, and it takes so much time and effort and money to make progress. If you own a home, you probably know that. And it takes no time at all to undo it. Isn't that something? And that reminds me of the struggle of, any human rights really. It's how it is. It takes so many people to come together to make a change. And it takes very directed effort, focused effort to make it happen. And it takes time, and it takes sacrifice and contribution from all. And then one person can come and undo it all. And it doesn't mean that the struggle was worthless. It doesn't mean that the progress never existed. It's just, truth is that if we look back a little bit on history, progress is just never a straight line. It just isn't. It's jagged. And sometimes it gets off track, but maybe still advances a little. Sometimes it's a little backwards, just like we have to replace the entire flooring in the basement, all of it. It's like that. So many years ago, long before I came to this church to be your minister, you guys made a decision to officially become an affirming congregation, affirming towards the LGBTQ plus community. And you did a lot of work to be certified. The UU World has actually a path of certification, and you have to hit so many serious marks to qualify and to be legally, officially certified by the UUA, which is Unitarian Universalist Association. That's our mothership. And so we're certified by the mothership. And we are because you all worked together. So when I came here as your minister, that was already a done deal. That's progress. That is a community coming together, working together. First, the thought occurs, we should do this, it's time. And this was long before the Marriage Act was passed, before gay marriage was legalized. So this community already decided, we want to be on the right side of history. And we will do whatever it takes. And these are our steps. This is how we begin. It's the beginning of the road. So it takes first an idea, and then it takes courage to share that idea, to let it outside, you know? That's so hard. You have a thought, and then you guard it, because how am I going to be received if I share this idea? So then you let it out, and then there are others who pick it up and say, oh, yeah, we'll amplify that. We'll amplify that with you. But you don't know that unless you take that first step. You don't know that there will be anybody there to stand with you, stand by you, and to amplify your voice, and let it become a roar. So we did that in this community. And we've also done that as a nation. Truth be told, where we are today and where we've come from, so much progress has been made. And it was jagged at best. And there were the Ronald Reagans, the Anita Bryants in the way or on the way. And we had to overcome all of them. We had to overcome all of them. And then we had to overcome the stigma of AIDS. And so many people had to be brave before me. By the time I came on the scene, I had it so much easier than older queer folk. So much easier. The fact that I can be the minister of a community, of a church, that I can stand here, I am the spiritual leader of this community, and I'm gay as the day is long. And I don't have to hide it. I don't have to compromise anything about me. And that's because of you. I stand on you guys' shoulders. All the fight that you've put into, this is what you made possible. And that's amazing. And it took sacrifice, and it took vision, and it took commitment, and it took, to hell with it. I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm not going to compromise anymore. Enough is enough. And we sat down in the front of the bus. There was our moment too. There was Stonewall. That was our sitting down in front of the bus, and we said, enough is enough. And that wasn't easy. And the other thing is, it wasn't clear that it would make a difference. It never is. In the day-to-day living, we cannot know what progress is really going to look like tomorrow, a day after tomorrow. And that makes it a little bit harder then to stand up and fight for it, because we really can't see what it's going to be like. Looking back, it's easy to see what Stonewall contributed to. We now know when Harvey Milk started speaking up, we know now where that led. But in the moment, that wasn't clear at all. So everything that we do today is the same. We don't know where it's going to lead, but it's required. It's required that we do it. It's required that we keep pushing for progress up until the day when it would just make no sense to have Pride Month. When it will make no sense to even have a Pride event. Because what's the big deal? These rights are just so implied, so normalized, so unquestioned. That's what we are working towards. That's the progress that we are seeking. And the path to that is also jagged. And I don't know about you, but today I have just a little bit more fear than I had 3 days ago. When was the debate? Dear God. Thursday. Remember, it takes all of us to make the progress, and one person can undo it. And so we can't let that happen. We just can't let that happen. Now, it is in our DNA to struggle. If we see any injustice in the world, there we are. We show up right away and we fight. And it's exhausting to always fight, but it's in our DNA, we can't help it. And the thing that we forget to celebrate is progress. We forget to celebrate that, hey, goals have been reached here. Lives have been changed. Different possibilities have been created because of the very struggle. So, you know my story. Most of you know my story. Some of the faces I see in here are new to me. But you know my story. So today I brought in 2 people to share their stories. And they will speak about the progress. And of course, progress, you can't gauge that without the contrast of where we've come from. So you'll hear a little bit of both. But today we celebrate. We celebrate and we recharge because so much good has been created. And it took gay and straight and bi and trans, the whole gamut, to make it happen. All of us, humankind. So my first guest is Karen Clapp Morris. Please come, use this mic at the pulpit. And she will share her story. The next one will be Chris Badra, my friend. Thank you for accepting my invitation to come and share. And then as you listen to her story, think of yours. Here's yours too. This is all of our story.
Hello. First of all, let me say I'm 62 years old. I am happily married now. My wife Lisa unfortunately couldn't make it today, but I love her dearly. Her daughter is soon to have a child, and they're planning to shower today. It was all in the forefront, so I'm going to start. And back in, there's like 12 years of my life from like 84 to, well, I guess maybe the anyway, about a good 12 years. I went through a lot of strife, let's say. In 1984 and 1982, actually, I was engaged to a man. His name was John. And John was a wonderful human being. Unfortunately, he contracted leukemia. And at that time, back in 1984, of course, there's no cure, and they've made a lot of progress, let's say that, since then. And as I was sitting there and he was in his dying days, and we were talking, he said something to me that blew me out of the water, to be honest, because I had no clue. He says, Karen, I know you would have been a great wife. I know you would have been a great mother. And you're a loving, caring person. And he kind of chuckled and he says, but I really think you're a lesbian. What? I'm like, no, it can't be. He goes, well, stop and think about it for a minute. You're on an all-women's softball team. Do you ever see any other guys besides me in the stands? Well, now that you mentioned it, no. He says, you've always been a tomboy. You love your jeans and your T-shirts. I've never seen you in a dress. And it's true, never saw me in a dress. He says, you're always very vocal, you're always very competitive, and you work super hard. You work harder than any man I know. And he says, do you also realize that you seem to notice beautiful women when they walk by? No. Do you know you even open doors for women when they walk through a door? I'm like, oh, well, maybe there's something to this, but anyway, the conversation went on, and soon John passed, and I still miss him to this day. He's still got a part of my heart. But shortly after that, as always, being that competitive and hardworking person, I just dove into work. I took on an extra part-time job with my full-time job, buried myself in work, and at this part-time job, I met this girl named Holly. Holly was a friend, and to me, like, you know, in high school, you have girlfriends, right? You have friends you do things with, you go places with. And we had been going and doing stuff for about a year, and no big deal. And one night, she'd invite me over to her place, and I went over there. We had pizza and some wine. Halfway through my glass of wine, I felt funny. I said, oh man, I don't know what's wrong. I mean, we've had this wine before, we've eaten this pizza before, so maybe I'm coming down with something. She goes, well, let me get you a glass of water. And she went into the kitchen, and I don't remember anything after that. What actually happened is I was date raped by this girl. And when I came to and realized what had happened, of course, I was very angry and very upset, as anyone would. She kept telling me she loved me, she wanted to be with me, so on and so forth. As time went on, Holly, during that time, she called my work, harassed me at work. Finally, we got that stopped. But the part that really hurt me the worst was that I belonged to a Lutheran church, and I had been a part of the junior high ministry there for over 3.5 years. I took a class of 2 kids and built it up to almost 40, coming every week. These are junior high kids. Never know which direction they were coming from. She called my church. She got a hold of a church directory, and she called over half of the members in the congregation. Never in my life have I ever met a more vindictive person. She told me I would regret this decision of not being with her, and I guess she meant it. The pastor of the church met with me, and I lost my ministry. I also walked out of church that day, and I never went back. To tell you the truth, this is like the 3rd church service I've been to since 1985. Went back again, dove myself into work. And I met this young man by the name of Richard. He was a gay man, and he had gotten hired in at McDonald's, is where I worked for at the time, and I was working my way up into salaried management. And I was told to train Richard to help him to become an hourly replacement for me once I got promoted to salary, and that was kind of the custom. Finally, Richard got promoted. A couple months later, I got promoted, and I was asked to go to Jackson. You couldn't stay in the same store, so they moved me to the Jackson store. Richard came with me. It was at that time that I realized Michigan Pride, even though I wasn't technically a lesbian, but Richard had a very calming influence on me. He reintroduced me to the community. He reintroduced me to the zoo, bar that used to be here, Brothers that used to be here. When we went to Jackson, it was the 501. And got me reacclimated to that and to that whole ideal that maybe I am a lesbian, you know, and let's just take it slow. It was a bad experience, you know, you gotta let it go. So I did. I dated a few women. I didn't want a commitment, I didn't want a relationship. I was just kind of testing the waters. So Richard moved with me to Jackson, and we started working with Michigan Pride. We started working with the Human Rights Campaign, and we marched, and we protested, and we wrote letters, and we made phone calls, and we made sure people got to the polls to vote. In 1988, May of 1988, this one's hard. In May of 1988, we decided to go up for a fun night, and we both had the weekend off, so we went up to Club 67 in Grand Rapids. While we were there, I had a great time, had just a lot of fun. We handed out some pamphlets and stuff, so we still did a little bit along the Pride campaign because it was May and June was the march in Lansing. As we left the bar, we were walking out, and I realized I had left my flyers and stuff inside. I went back inside. Hey, Richard said, don't worry about it. I'll just have a cigarette here, and I'll wait for you. I'm like, okay. So I went back inside. All of a sudden, there was all this commotion, As I was in the back of the bar getting my stuff and coming forward, there was all this commotion. The bouncer went flying out the door. And Arthur, the manager of the bar at the time, he went out the door. He came back in. He's on the phone calling 911. Two guys dressed as, actually, I called them cowboys because they actually had Western wear on. They had cowboy hats, cowboy boots, had Richard on the ground. They were kicking his face, kicking his body, and Richard wasn't moving. Finally, the bouncer was hitting him with this like bat thing he had, baton, I guess, and he was hitting him with it and stuff and trying to back him off. Police still hadn't arrived. Finally, this pickup truck pulls in, the two guys take off, jump in the back of the pickup truck, and they're gone. They finally let us out of the bar. We went over to Richard, and he was in a puddle of blood. And the ambulance didn't come, the police didn't come. It had been about 15 minutes since the phone call. I said, screw it. Get him in the back of my car, we're taking him to St. Mary's. We took him to St. Mary's. We were trying to stop the bleeding. We got him there, and of course the doctor wanted to know what happened. He had to report it because it was a beating type situation. No officers came. His mother was there. They had to go in to remove the top part of his skull to relieve the pressure on his head. And the cops finally, the detectives, I should say, they showed up the following day, took photographs of him, asked some questions. We gave them all the details we had, and they left. I mean, they were there maybe 15 minutes. And here lie Richard in a coma. 2 days later, we lost him. This boy was like a brother to me. And most of my friends that are here, they've never heard this story. I don't share it very often. This is very personal. So moving on, after Richard dove myself into work again, I decided to work to become a first assistant, which I did, and I was promoted. I was transferred to Coloma. I had my first real relationship there. I finally decided I met this girl by the name of Denise. She was part of the Human Rights Campaign in Michigan Pride as well. She lived in Grand Rapids. I was working in Coloma. I was living in South Haven. I went and eventually moved in with her. It was a long drive, hour and a half, and in the winter, boy, I dreaded it. But continuing on with my job, one night I was on a close, and this gentleman was working in my grill area, which I was closeted, by the way. I wasn't talking to anybody about who I was or who I was dating or anything. After everything that happened with Richard, I didn't want to say anything. So I was working that night on close, and he was messing orders up left and right. I tried to calm him down, got him calmed down, and finally at close, I was short a couple of people, so I did my stuff, and I came up, was doing the shaking Sunday machines, and I went back while the machines were sanitizing, and I started talking to him a little bit, and he had confided in me that he was a gay man and that his partner, he felt, was out cheating on him, and he was using a few explicitives, which I toned him back in. And that was basically the conversation. I gave him a couple of ideas, maybe things he could try. Went home that night, came back the next day, my store manager's at the door, waiting for me. It was her day off, and she's in street clothes, and I'm like, Penny, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you. So we went out to the front. I'm sitting down at the picnic tables with her, and she tells me, you have been suspended, and they're charging you with sexual harassment. A young 16-year-old girl who I guess had never heard the word homosexual before, had never heard any ideals that two men could ever be together, came home and decided to have this conversation with her parents. Her parents decided to call HR and corporate, that we were having this conversation. First of all, she was far from us. I don't know how she heard the conversation, but apparently she did. Enough of it. Parents were all up in arms because their daughter never even heard the word homosexual before, or anything to do with boy being a boy or whatever. So they were upset, and they filed a grievance against me. I couldn't believe it, turned in my keys. I wasn't getting paid for this time, and I went home to talk to Denise, and Denise said, call him up back and quit. It'll never be the same. And in reality, she's probably right. 9 years I put in. I worked myself up from a lot and lobby person to this salaried member of management that I felt was really prestigious. And I began to realize it just didn't matter. So I quit that job, and lo and behold, a week later, I had a new one in Grand Rapids, even though I tried to transfer several times. So I lost a job, basically, because one, I was trying to help somebody, and kind of, sort of, because I was gay. Denise had a friend of hers that his name was Jerry, partner's name was Tom and Jerry. And they had been a couple for over 20 years. They belonged to Fountain Street Church, and they went to church every Sunday. They were a wonderful couple. They were very much a part of the Human Rights Campaign. And so we hung out a lot together, played cards together once a week. We went to dinner. We did all these things. And Jerry's job was working as a nurse with AIDS. He didn't have AIDS, but he worked with patients that had AIDS. He was doing the chemical cocktails. He was doing the IVs, all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, the worst thing that could possibly happen to one of those nurses is they get stuck with a dirty needle. A few months later, Jerry had HIV. He was HIV positive. 6 months after that, he had full-blown AIDS. He had an immune deficiency within himself already, and unfortunately, it took him right down. He got down to where it was end of life. And Tom came to us and he says, should I call his parents? He hasn't talked to them in 25 years. They kind of wrote him off. And I'm like, well, if it was my son and he was dying, I guess I would want to know and, relieve your conscience by at least telling them. So we called them. They said they'd be right here, and they were. Day and a half later, they made it. They lived in Alabama. And they brought with them their Southern Baptist minister. Tom was excluded from seeing Jerry anymore. They wouldn't allow him in the room. He didn't get to say goodbye to him. He sat outside that room, though, and we sat with him for the 2 weeks it entailed. Jerry passed away, and at the funeral, this minister got up and basically told us we were all going to hell. I did everything I could, he said, to save this boy, but he would not repent. Well, if I didn't have a bad taste in my mouth about religion, I sure as heck had a bad taste in my mouth with that one. So, on and on, the fight continues, all the marches, all the protests, looking now for medical rights that a partner could at least have something filled out, something that was available, because at that time there wasn't. And now we have that. In 2004 was like a breath of fresh air. Massachusetts had passed their same-sex marriage and protections under the law, under their statehood. I'm telling you, I swear it was like a mass exodus. There were so many lesbian and gays wanting to move to Massachusetts. But we continued on with the fight. We continued with the marches. We continued with the protests, the letter writing, going to local police stations and showing them Richard's picture and telling them that this all could possibly be prevented if the police would have just showed up. It wasn't a priority. So now I'm happy to say that in 2015, of course, marriage rights came through for all the states, but I still worry. This number 45 scares the crap out of me. Anybody, and if they could overturn Roe versus Wade, after 50 years this law was on the books, who's to say they can't take my rights and overturn them as well? And I watch the young ones today, and I see them, they're not necessarily protesting, they're not necessarily writing their congressmen, they're not necessarily doing these things, they're kind of lavishing in the rights that they were born into. And I'm saying we still need to pick up the fight. We still need to go, we still need to push on. So I married Lisa in 2021, best day of my life. And we created a group called SAF Oasis because we found a need for women in the community to feel safe. And most of our women are 50 and older, and we have almost 100 members now. We started this about 10 months ago. And there's lesbians in it, allies in it, bisexuals in it, it didn't matter. If you're a woman and we have arts and we do fun things, Dana's come and performed for us a few times. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But I still have a hard time holding my wife's hand out in public. I still have a hard time getting too close to her, when I'm out there in the public. And so it's, I guess it's just fear that's instilled within you. I'm better than what I was. At least I will occasionally reach over and kind of grab her hand for a minute and kind of let it go. And I can't sit in a room with my back to the door. But these are things that I've learned and protections that I do for myself. And so I ask you today, if you know of a young gay or lesbian person, that you tell them the story of Stonewall. And do you know the thing that really upset me about Stonewall? Upon their 50th anniversary, the New York City Police Department finally apologized. 50 years. So I thank you all, and thank you, Reverend G, for this opportunity.
Thank you for sharing, Karen. Well, progress is slow as well. Sometimes it takes forever. For some, it's too late. It takes so long that it's just too late. And we are a product of our environment and of our past. And it breaks my heart that Karen still struggles holding hands with her wife in public. Patty and I have that sometimes, depending on where we're at. Here in town, no, but I wouldn't do it in Alabama. I certainly can't do it in Hungary. And, I expect nothing less than to have the next generation be able to do it wherever they so please. And that's because they stand on all of our shoulders, the Karens, the Richards, all of us. So, Chris, will you please share your story? Thank you.
Oh, hi, I'm Chris. I kind of wrote my notes, so I'm just going to read it. I remember in high school that there was a girl who everyone bullied and accused of being a queer. I had no idea that my queerness was so underground and completely buried at that time, but I knew I wouldn't have wanted to go through the ridicule and name-calling she endured. That was my first experience with realizing that some people preferred intimacy with members of their own sex. Fast forward 25 years, my marriage to my husband had been in trouble for several years when I finally decided in 1999 that I needed to leave it. I had been married for 22 years and was pretty unhappy for many of those years. We had 2 beautiful, smart, talented daughters, and for them I will be eternally grateful, but I just couldn't tolerate being married to Bob anymore. We didn't agree on parenting styles. His idea was to give them everything they wanted, while mine was more about saying no once in a while. He seemed to never be able to acknowledge any kind of problems, whether it was with our marriage or issues that the girls were having. I couldn't do it anymore. I knew I had to make a change, and I thought that maybe I'm a lesbian, bisexual at the very least. Was I gay? I didn't know for sure. I knew I had been attracted to women for many years, but I had never been with a woman in an intimate way. I had a friend from grad school whom I met up with at the Michigan Women's Festival after she moved to Minnesota to continue her grad studies. I'd always been very attracted to her. I was really hoping we could hook up while there, but she met someone else there and ended up spending most of the weekend with her. I was crushed. That was 8 years before I finally called it quits on my marriage. Fortunately, I had some close friends who were very supportive to me in my decision to leave, including my therapist and a spiritual advisor who were both Catholic nuns. My massage therapist, who had become a close friend, was also supportive. In February of 2000, I left my home, my dogs, my piano, and the life I had known for the previous 2 decades of my adult life for an apartment and a new way of life. My daughters were pretty shocked by my decision, but eventually they understood why it had to happen, and I started my new life as a single woman. We had equal custody of the girls, so they spent half the week with me and the other half with Bob. I had just turned 42. A rather quirky note to all of this was that my husband's brother's wife had left my brother-in-law for a woman several years before I met Bob. The Badra brothers were doomed to have their wives leave them for lesbian relationships. Phil, who's the brother-in-law, has a son, and we were all afraid that, something might happen to that, but he's good with his wife. I had no idea if I made the right decision. I quickly met some new lesbian friends through my massage therapist and friend Dee. After about 18 months of being on my own, she introduced me to my first girlfriend. It was a very short-lived relationship, but it did confirm what I had suspected, that I was indeed gay. I finally had an opportunity to have a sexual relationship with a woman. I discovered I liked being with a woman. I never looked back. When I told my girls that I had something important I needed to talk with them about, they both were worried that I was sick or had lost my job or that something terrible had happened. When I told them I was pretty sure I was gay and that I was dating a woman, they each sighed a breath of relief. They were happy for me. My youngest, Danielle, later told me that my coming out had made it easier for her to come out when she went to college, although many of us suspected she was gay long before she acknowledged it. When they were younger, I had talked to them about sexuality being on a continuum of completely heterosexual to completely homosexual with several variations in between. I started prepping them way in advance of my actual decision. I was so relieved and happy that they were okay with my lifestyle change. After my first brief relationship, I met a woman who I worked with who had gone to Phoenix Church, and I saw her there. Of course, I thought to myself, she must be gay if she's coming to this church, as if going to church was a clear indication that you must be gay. We started dating, and within a couple of months, she moved into my house, and we were together for the next 16 years. My girls liked her, and she also had a daughter who was 1 year younger than my oldest daughter and 2 years older than my youngest. Perfect fit all the way around. Both of my parents and most of my older relatives had died by the time I left Bob, so I didn't have to explain things to them. I think my mom probably would have taken it okay, but not so sure that my dad would have. By the time my immediate family and most of my cousins met Mary, they were all accepting of my new lifestyle, and fortunately, I did not have a hard time with any of them. I was grateful for that. Mary and I worked together, and before long, everyone knew we were together. We worked in mental health, and for the most part, most of the people who are therapists or in the mental health field are pretty liberal, and there wasn't anyone who ever said anything negative to me. Most people were just happy to see me happy. When my youngest daughter, Danielle, was in college, she too began to realize that she was gay. She had never been that interested in boys and had never dated in high school. She did go to prom with a boy, but he was also gay. Danielle had several relationships, some rather long-term, but she eventually met her wife in a grad school program. When she first told me she was dating Holly, I thought to myself, I sure hope this works out because they are in a 3-year MFA program together, and if it doesn't work out, things could get ugly. Fortunately, things did work out. They were legally married in the fall of 2021, and they immediately began their journey to become parents. After 2 failed IUI attempts and 1 failed IVF attempt, my beautiful granddaughter, Iris Rachel, was conceived through IVF, and she was born on October 1st, 2023. She is pure joy and a delight to her moms and to me. And unfortunately, she lives 600 miles away, so I don't get to see her very often. I'm sure that Danielle would have figured out her sexuality whether or not I had come out, but I do think it made it a little easier for her. Unfortunately for Holly, her parents are evangelical Christians, kind of a, anyway, and are not accepting at all. Her mom told Holly that Danielle is Satan, and she would not accept their relationship. As Danielle's mother, I was very offended by that. Her parents were not invited to the wedding. They have not met Iris, and they never will until and unless they accept Danielle and as Holly's wife and lifetime partner. Now, most of the friends I spend time with are gay, and we have a close-knit community. They all supported me with their love and presence when my oldest daughter, Rachel, died 12 years ago. They've been with me through the good times and the bad. I wouldn't have it any other way. As I've grown older, I've sometimes thought it would be easier to date if I was still interested in men, but I know that I've chosen the right path for me, and I've never regretted my decision to come out. Danielle wants me to get back out there and date, and I told her I have no idea what to say or do. I feel rather clueless about it. She did give me a couple of great pickup lines. Are you okay? Looks like you fell from heaven, and I'm here to help you out. Or referring to my love of singing, we should harmonize sometime. Then she told me the common pickup line is, do you want to have coffee sometime? Haha. What would I do without my daughter, the dating coach? Thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing. So it shows that it runs the gamut, our experience. And there's been progress. And there's been progress. And that's so important. So today we celebrate that progress. And we allow that celebration to just fill us, to recharge us. Because, well, tomorrow there's work to do. But we're up for it. We're up for it because we've done it before. Because we just can't quit. Because we can tell right from wrong. Because we care. Because we understand that love is love. Because this is the human experience. And why would we deny life, love, freedom of expression, authenticity to any one of us? Why would we do that? So thank you for being this community. This community that has decided a long time ago that you will stand on the right side of history. That you are willing to fight for the right to love, for the right to live with dignity, for everyone. And for that, I thank you. And I thank you. And I thank you. And so it is.
Our lives have been graced by many gifts from the hand of life. Excuse me. In gratitude and love, let us now share a portion of these gifts to support the life and work of our religious community. We invite you to show your love in a very practical way, giving the way we all know how to, allowing us to keep the lights on, carrying this life-giving message from the confines of this building into the wider world. There are a few ways to give. You may mail a check to our building. You may give electronically through our church website, or you can give using the Vanco app on a smartphone or tablet, or you can place your offering in the basket as the ushers bring it around. And don't forget my previous announcement about the last time to give for Generosity Sunday to the Native American College Fund.
Well, I'm trying to tell you something about my life. Maybe give you insight between black and white. Well, the best thing you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. Well, it's only life after all, yeah. Well, darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and lightness has a calm it's hard to hear. Well, I wrap my fear around me like a blanket, saved my ship of safety till I sank it. I'm boarding on shore, and I went to the doctor, I went to the mountain, and I looked to the children, I drank from the fountain. Well, there's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my soul for some definitive, closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. Well, I stopped by the bar at 3 a.m. to seek solace in a bottle or possibly a friend. Well, I woke up with a headache like my head against the board, twice as cloudy as I'd been the night before. I went in seeking clarity, and I went to the doctor, I went to the mountain, and I looked to the children, I drank from the fountain. Well, there's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my soul for some definitive, closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. Yeah. Closer I am to find. Yeah. Thank you. It is early. Not even dark out. Thank you.
As we extinguish the chalice, let us remember to keep the flame awake and alive in our souls, and let the light of the chalice bind us together, showing us the way.
We extinguish this flame, but
Not the light of truth. Peace we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
You've done good. Keep doing it. And so it is. In a little bit, we will go offline, and then we will